how Bill C-4 got passed in Parliament is actually a historical anomaly. It's absolutely unprecedented to my knowledge. We've never seen in the history of Canada an amendment to the criminal code that passed through both houses of Parliament, so both the House of Commons and the Senate, without any deliberation, without any debate, without any true vote on its content, without any study by any of the committees. This is unprecedented. So what we have is a bill that's changing the criminal code in a very big way, and not one parliamentarian ever got to speak to the bill or raise any concerns about the bill or study the bill, and that should be shocking to this nation, no matter what side of the issue you are on. I mean, it's been a total collapse of the opposition in our parliamentary democracy. So let me just backtrack for you for a little bit. So before Bill C-4 was Bill C-6 in the previous Parliament, which was on similar content. It was an act to amend the criminal code to ban conversion therapy. But in Bill C-6, the definition was actually even more vague. So a very vague definition can be problematic, but sometimes a vague definition could give us a little bit of cover because of its vagueness. So you can hope that a judge would be able to work with a vague definition and try to allow pastors and counselors and so on to be able to do non-coercive counseling. But what Bill C-6 said is you're allowed to consent as an adult. You're allowed to consent to so-called conversion therapy. If you consent, then it's not criminal. And at the time, so we're talking just 6 months ago, the Attorney General of Canada himself, David Lametti, said at the Justice Committee that he had to allow for consenting adults to do conversion therapy because the charter required it. And he said that the Department of Justice, who answers to him, had wrestled with this question, and they had come back and advised him that we cannot ban it for consenting adults because the charter wouldn't allow for that. And yet now with Bill C-4, 6 months later, we get this bill tabled and it bans it also for consenting adults. And so it's a whole new bill. It's totally different in that sense. And so for the opposition, the Conservatives in the House of Commons as well as in the Senate, for them to not put up a fight at all, and to point out that, say, look, the Justice Minister himself, the Liberal Justice Minister, said just half a year ago, he is on record as saying that neither he nor the entire Justice Department believes that you can ban conversion therapy for consenting adults. Why in the world now does this bill ban it for consenting adults? That's a basic talking point, an easy reason to vote against Bill C-4. And yet what happened? Well, what happened is that on November 29th, it's a Monday, late in the afternoon, Justice Minister David Lametti introduces Bill C-4. It's tabled. And the bill is as bad as I've already outlined. 2 days later, on Wednesday, December the 1st, it's the opposition, so this Conservatives, right? So it's a Liberal Justice Minister who tables the bill. It's a Liberal bill. It's the Conservatives on December the 1st in the afternoon. They put forward what's called a unanimous motion, which calls on the entire House of Commons to pass Bill C-4 by skipping every single stage of deliberation. Skip second reading, skip sending it to committee, skip the study, skip the witnesses, skip the experts, skip any sort of amendments, skip third reading and debate and deliberation at that stage, and pass it straight into the Senate. And the way a unanimous motion works is that the motion is read off, and then you don't vote for the motion. There's simply a pause. The speaker pauses. He waits for anyone to say nay, and all you need is a single nay, one no, in the House of 338 MPs, and then it's like, okay, no, if even just one person says no, we should actually study this bill, then fine, then it goes back and goes through the entire parliamentary process. But no one spoke up.
Nobody said no?
No one said no. No one said no. Even though, again, just 6 months ago, the Justice Minister himself should have said no to such a bill because he had said, well, this is unconstitutional. So the time to fix something like that would be at what's called committee study, right? And that's where the House of Commons, all 338 of these MPs, they don't all deliberate over the finer content of a bill. Like, it's sent to a special committee that specializes in that subject matter. And so this bill should have gone to what's called the Justice Committee. And the Justice Committee has, I think it's 15, MPs that sit on it that are more or less experts in the issues of justice and the criminal code and so on, and they bring in witnesses and experts and so on. I've presented to that committee before, and they say, oh, look, this section is really good, this section is problematic for these reasons, and you should adjust it this way, or just add this word, or delete this phrase, or whatever. That happens there. The bill is refined, and then it comes back to the House of Commons for a final debate and vote. That's what's supposed to happen, but it didn't happen. So that's December 1st, right? Skips that entire process. So then we're like, okay, that's crazy. I can't believe that happened. That took everybody by surprise. So we're like, okay, well, let's focus on the Senate. Maybe the Senate will do its job. It's been called the chamber of sober second thought, right? So let's see what they're going to do. Well, it goes to the Senate, and lo and behold, in the Senate, same thing. The leader of the opposition, the leader of the Conservatives, that senator stands up and puts forward a unanimous motion saying, oh, let's just pass this bill. We have better things to do. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. We have better things to do. Let's just pass this bill without deliberation, study, or debate. And again, same thing happened. So that happened on last week, Tuesday, I believe it was. So about 6 days after it passed through the House of Commons. Again, skips second reading and debate. It skips study at the committee. It skips witnesses and experts and stakeholders. It skips third reading debate, and it's passed straight into law. The next day, it was December 8th. It was signed into law by the Governor General. It comes into effect January 8th of 2022. So I actually wrote an article about this very problem, and this goes back to our constitutional heritage in a way, because we used to have it 800 years ago that the king, as the head of the government, what his word was law, and there was no opposition. Opposition was not allowed. And so over the course of about 400 or 500 years, there is all kinds of conflict and struggle and war and bloodshed and torture and imprisonment and so on. And over the course of 500, 600 years or so, we developed a parliamentary system in England. And that really comes to a pinnacle in the year 1688, with what's called the Glorious Revolution, where Parliament asserted its supremacy over the king and the government. And part of that supremacy is that within Parliament, there must always be debate and deliberation. And some people within Parliament would be very supportive of the king. Some people would have concerns about the king and his actions and so on. But the point was that Parliament would keep the king and his government in check. That's where we got the phrase responsible government from. That is not that, well, they're so responsible because they spend their money so wisely, they never go into debt. That's not what we mean by responsible government. What we mean is that the government, which is the prime minister and his cabinet and that massive bureaucracy, they are responsible to Parliament. But in order for Parliament to work the way it's supposed to work, it's set up as what's called an adversarial system, which is that they're supposed to deliberate and debate and ask questions. And that's particularly the role of the opposition. And so John Diefenbaker, who was our prime minister in the 1950s, he was a conservative prime minister. He's a pretty remarkable man, actually, and some of his legacy with Canada is actually is a good legacy. He's the one who gave the vote to our First Nations peoples. He's the one who brought in the Canada Human Rights, the Bill of Rights, sorry. And he had made many other advances in human rights in this country. And he spoke about the very, very important role of the opposition. He said the role of the opposition is as important in Parliament as that of the government, because its role is to keep the government side in check. It's to ask questions. It's to force the government to explain itself. And that totally collapsed on this bill. And it should shock the conscience of this nation that no opposition stood up and simply asked questions. No opposition member said, no, we're not going to fast track this one because this is a clearly unconstitutional bill, or this bill is going to have implications for pastors and counselors across this country, or this bill has an unusual impact on the LGBTQ community and could be seen as discriminatory against them, or this bill is simply poorly drafted. Whatever, I don't care what they have to say about the bill so much as the fact that it should be debated, and that was completely missing last week. So it does not speak well. It does not speak well for the health of our democracy in this country. That's for sure. I published. So I went back to the writings and the speeches of John Diefenbaker, and I did an interview with him post-mortem, like after he has died, and just took direct quotes from speeches he's given or things he's said, and I fit it into a back and forth dialogue between myself and him, and just to show just how how much the opposition, which is a conservative opposition in this parliament, how much they failed in their task a week and 2 weeks ago.
Mm,
Yeah,
mhm.
it's funny. When I was listening to the episode on Liberty Dispatch, Michael Thiessen, he was pretty not happy about that, and he was saying like, yeah, like where are the Christian political representatives?
Mhm.
He was really disappointed that there was no believers that
Right.
were able to stand up and say something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can imagine that it would have been a very, very tense moment. It happened very quickly and so on. I have a couple of friends that are members of parliament, and I asked them straight up, like, "What in the world happened? Like that's crazy." And it was clear that there was a phenomenal amount of pressure in the moment.
Of
So
course,
so I have some empathy for that, and yet at the same time, it's like this is unacceptable, and this is the thing that's missed. Like you can watch footage on YouTube or whatever of this motion going down, and you actually see members of the opposition like literally dancing up and down with joy that this passed unanimously, and clapping and hugging and cheering with the liberals and so on. And you know, be that as as it may.
Breaking all their rules at the same
But yeah,
time.
that's right. Yeah, social distancing didn't matter anymore. But the thing that is absolutely uh, terrible about it, the thing that's so sad about it, is that they don't understand what they've just done, and that is that they've said it's now a criminal offense to offer help to people who are struggling with their gender identity, or at least to offer a certain type of help.
Please subscribe and hit the bell to stay up to date. If you liked or disliked the snippet, give it a like and share your 2 cents with us in the comment section. And remember, 6 cents makes change.